I think we're ready, Jennifer.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley. Here. Jim Molitaire, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr., Martin Charlo,
Present.
Lanice Trahan.
Thank you, Jennifer. Carol, will you give us a prayer this morning?
Creator, today we just give thanks for the moisture in the air and rain on the ground. And just give thanks for all of the things that are brought forward and that we're able to accomplish. And we just ask you to watch out for the Women for Wellness Conference, the Pablo Skate Park, Bob Gochi's funeral. I mean, there's just so much going on. We just, be in people's hearts at this time and either let them have fun or just enjoy the services for Bob. And we also ask you to be with our elders and our children, keep them safe and strong, and also be with the Zepeda family who Stan lost Frank, and I'm sure there's others that we have lost recently. And then also people who are coming home from treatment and other things. We ask you to be with them and help them to accomplish what they need to when they get home and put a roof over their head. And just ask that all in your name, Creator. Thank you. Amiate.
Well, we have minutes from May 15th. How are we with the minutes? Oh,
Motion to move to approve the May 15th minutes with any corrections.
motion by Tom. Second by Jennifer. All in favor? Unanimous. We have an agenda for today. We have 3 walk-ins. Anything else for the agenda? James?
I'll have a quick update and open, please.
Martin? Daniel? Entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Motion by James to approve the agenda with additions. Second by Tom. All in favor? We're unanimous. Go to our first walk-in.
Miranda Berlin.
Come on up, Miranda. Good morning.
Good morning, council. So I am coming in this morning and you guys all received an invite to our 2025 high school graduation celebration event. Yep. And we would like to invite all of council to attend. And then also, if any of you are available to attend, to do a brief acknowledgement of the students while they're there. This year we have tentatively 49 CSKT high school graduates. We have graduates out of every single one of our high school districts this year, which is awesome because we talk about our small districts, Hot Springs and Charlo, and we've got 2 CSKT enrolled members out of both of those districts this year, so that's pretty awesome. We've got invites out to everybody, but we would love to have council there. It will be held on a Wednesday this year. We're trying to accommodate for families. It will be June 11th. We'll hold it over at SKC's Sherry McDonald Hospitality Room. The event itself will run from 5 to 7, but we're offering 4 to 5 p.m. to have families come in to get photos of their child and or family, and then a group photo of all the graduates.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Can you put me down? I'll go. I'll definitely go. I was
Perfect.
trying to do the QR code, but it's for if you have a graduate, so I don't have one.
Well, yeah, you guys could
Same.
probably still put it on there.
on there anyway?
Put your name. Yep, absolutely. Also mark you down. June 11th. Yep. Oh, did I not say that? Sorry.
Any other remarks? Any? Yeah,
Okay,
I roll.
perfect.
Thank you.
We'll see you all there. I'll mark you all down. No.
Jennifer.
I would love to go, but I will be on travel that week. Otherwise, I would. As a
Can-
former teacher, I love stuff like that, but I'll be on travel.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Miranda.
You guys are welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Mignon. Good morning.
With the Big Medicine soak. I don't know if any of you guys have been there recently. It's getting really bad. Non-members, party buses, not paying, changing in front of our kids naked. I really would like it if our Big Medicine was just tribal. It's getting ridiculous with buses of people who live in their buses and coming in and that's their bath. It's getting really gross. I go there once a week because I lift weights and that's my soak to heal my body. And it's 20 deep yuppies every time you get up there. They're not paying, smoking inside. Of course I have a voice and I will tell them that's not allowed. But I feel like our soak should be tribal. They have other soaks to go pay and soak in. And if it was us going to theirs, we would have to pay $20. There's nobody manning it. So these people, it's a free for all, putting their little floaties in there like it's their own little pools. And I've been going there since COVID and it's gotten worse since COVID because everybody knows about it now because there was nothing to do. So I'm asking council today to think about making Big Medicine only tribal. And if we have to open it up, open the one by the bowling alley for non-members. That's what I'm asking the council today.
Go ahead, Carol.
Curious, does anybody have control of it? I know it used to be Leroy. Does Rose?
It's my understanding Rose is still in control of it with a permit.
Okay, I wonder if she has the lease, have you talked to her? at all?
I don't know. I mean, I've never seen anybody up there when I go up there, and I'm up there for like 3 hours or so.
Okay,
And I don't know how to get a hold of anybody, but nobody's manning it.
I think
And I'm
that
sure
might,
she's not up there 24/7, but it's like, it's getting worse and worse. Like women bringing party buses and drinking in the parking lot and changing in front of my kids, like out in the open. I'm not good with that.
that should not happen, but I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, I don't know, since there is a lease on it, do we call the leasee in and talk to them first, or do we talk to Lands or?
I think we need to talk to Land to find out where that lease is because they had brought in that permit and I don't know if it was ever finalized.
I kind of remember things back and forth, but I don't remember. Yeah, so that would be the first step. But yeah, I appreciate you coming in with that because that is nasty. I've been up there
It's really
before.
gross and you see other tribal members sitting in their cars waiting for these people to leave.
Yeah, and I've seen not Asians up there cooking. Their food smells so good. And of course, they're not sharing food, but they shouldn't be cooking up there either. I mean, I just don't know if
It's not a recreation area
No.
like that, and they don't follow the signs. The signs are really big.
Yeah.
They don't follow them.
Okay.
And I just feel like we give them an inch, they take a mile, and it should just be tribal. It really should.
Thank you.
That's just what I recommend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's cooking?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mignon.
Taka.
Jennifer, we got some more remarks, it looks like. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, Mignon, thank you for coming in. I agree with you because I went up there with a friend who's also tribal to go soak. It was a while ago. I think it was maybe in the fall, and it was so crowded. Because I had never been there before, actually. My friend wanted to go, so we went and we pulled up and the whole parking lot was crowded. We got out, we looked at it. It was every spot in there was taken up by a body and none of them were tribal. And we just
Exactly.
left.
We're a minority in our
Because-
own place.
Yes, and we actually were like, no, that looks so, no, we just left. It turned us away.
Yeah.
So
They have
thank you for
signs,
bringing
they
that up.
have wild horse. Let them go pay for that. $5 isn't getting us nothing there. Is it worth $5 to give up our spot to non-members? You know what I mean? I go every week, every weekend, and it gets worse and worse. And I've even called Leonard a couple times, even earlier in the year about it. And since then, it's got worse. So let's do it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Who's so
Mignon.
good cooking?
Thank you. Mr. Morjo, Mr. Myers, come on up. Good morning. Morning. I think you're all right. Looks like the mic's on.
Is that on?
I think you're good.
Test.
Go ahead.
I'm Anthony Myers. And I'm a member. Never done this before. I'm a little bit, we got a problem. Been in recovery since 2008. Going on 17 years of active recovery from addictions and we've been involved in helping people find their feet and find a way out of drug addiction and substance abuse for going on 15, 16 years here on the reservation, here on our lands. I'm the director of the drop-in center at the Never Alone Recovery Support Services over here. And this is Stephen Morjo. He's the director of residential. Dylan Lindquist, another member, is a peer support in training. She's getting certified for peer support work and stuff. And we're having sustainability issues if we don't find some type of help and funding for for tribal employees, not all employees, but tribal employees, if we don't find some kind of help for funding, we're gonna fold in 2026. Never Alone Recovery Support Service isn't going to be sustainable. I don't mind, we work 40 hours a week. That's what we get paid for. We do a lot of volunteer and service work outside of that 40 hours a week, helping our tribal community, helping others in the community that affect our tribal communities, and finding a better way to live and not in that drug addiction type of way. So I guess what I'm asking is, how do we go about looking for direction or looking for support from our tribe to help us sustain our ability to help people and still make a living?
James, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming in. First thing would be is to have like a budget of what you're talking about, how much money and a breakdown of what it's costing you. I mean, that would be real helpful to see what exactly your funds are and what you're talking about, what your need is. And
Our need is basically going to be for funding tribal members.
yeah, can you
For
put
payroll.
it, yeah, can you
Yeah.
put it into a proposal that
Sure.
we could look at and see, here's how many, here's how much, whether it's a spreadsheet or whatever form,
Sure.
that would be real helpful.
Okay.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, there's a lot of funding drying up and I'm kind of concerned about a lot of areas that are dealing with this. Now, Don is no longer associated. He used to write a lot of grants, I know.
Yeah, he's going out of his mind. We can't get insurance to cover our drop-in center right now because of the wording in the contract that says that the insurance company must cover all contractor, state, and volunteers. The wording in the contract from the state
Yeah,
has
I
got us in
understand. We
line.
deal with that too, but we got a legal department that helps us fight through those issues and arguments. So, the other thing is, how many employees are you talking about
For us,
that you would need funded?
3.
3. Okay, and I think James has hit it right on the head. We've got programs, we've got opioid money, we've got Tawahi, we've got just a number of places that could possibly, but I don't know if those funds are already spoken for. Most likely they are. But, if we could squeeze out some money somewhere, but we need to know exactly what you need.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a proposal, like a grant proposal, just for what the needs are, what they do, those kind of. So that would be helpful. We can't do anything until we can see how much you need.
Yeah.
Rough idea, 3 employees for just 1 year for us 3 that we're asking for, 200,000.
Is that with benefits and everything?
We would have to get the breakdown, like you said. I was just giving a
We
rough
will-
idea. I'm not sure what it all entails.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
I make $25 an hour at 40 hours a week. It comes
Okay.
out to about 52.
Okay,
that's
I
what I
see how
mean.
you came up with it.
It comes out to
That's
about
what I make.
52 annually. He gets 25 an hour. We do our 40 hours. We don't put in overtime. We don't put in for overtime,
Okay,
stuff like that there. We also have the person who takes care of the grounds. So it's going to basically be 3, me, Stephen, and Dalton Collier.
I think the other important thing is to know exactly what they do, because any funding that was, if we were able to loosen up any funding, it would have to fit what we're doing here in the organization.
Right. Yes.
And because of our insurance, we lost our drop-in center contract. So that was a huge thing, huge hit to us.
One other thing, Trina called from Royal Life and is looking for a place for a grandma and a child, and I gave her your number. I hope that was okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's fine.
We got Jennifer.
Do what we
and then
can.
Martin. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. This is something I really support because I think sobriety and wellness is a positive pyramid scheme. You know, like someone helps someone else and then they help two other people, then those people help more people. So, you know, it creates a positive effect in our whole community. And so one thing I think we have to look at the budget and find out where we would get that, where it would come from and how we would do it. And, you know, James's suggestion, so we know exactly how much you need. But also I would encourage you to think about, you know, and I think it's probably a group effort, maybe with our economic development department, but is there some entrepreneurial activity that you guys could do that would help train people in a job? Because I'm thinking about, there's a thrift store in Missoula that benefits people in recovery. And so people get out of recovery and then they work at this thrift store. And in the people, and so people donate actually really nice things there. My friend used to go there and buy designer purses because she's into designer purses. Anyway, so, and I used to go there too, but all the people who work there are people in recovery in it. So when they get out of treatment, they have a job and they make money and then they kind of learn customer service and, you know, whatever. But then all the profits go to fund more recovery. So I'm not saying you have to do a thrift store, but I'm just saying, you know, that would be something to think about to help fund what you guys do. But it also provides job attachment for people. So when people are getting out of something, sometimes they need to be job attached. And that would kind of kill lots of birds with one stone, to have some kind of, you know, whatever it is, a drive-through coffee shop, or I don't know, whatever you think people would want to do. But I think that would be something to think about for sustainability, to help fund it, but to also provide job attachment.
Yeah, we was trying to actually do something like that, but it all fell through. We was talking about starting a fabricated wall to help with it was making building materials, supposed to be over here somewhere, but it all went sideways and stuff. But that is a great idea, and I hear you. We do train people in recovery and in peer support, and they get their training through 40 hours of peer support training or whatnot, where they can go and sign up for their license through the state for the behavioral health and that, but we just don't have the funds to employ them. So that's, yeah, good idea.
I got Martin and then Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, thank you guys and congratulations on your sobriety. Appreciate what you guys are doing in Pablo. Have you guys worked at all with housing, as far as they have great grant writers and it would seem like they should be able to assist as well. It kind of gave you the keys with no funding, and it's something that I think that gap needs to be lessened and they should be helping as well. And so I think, you know, we could all sit down together and bring Jody in at some point, have a longer discussion about this, because, you know, this is something that we do a lot. We give keys to buildings with no way to keep them open. So definitely want to not just transfer kind of their, you know, because the 30s were a problem, you know, and so it feels like they kind of got out of the 30 business and turned it to you guys, and without a lot of support. And so that's definitely something that I feel like we can help with, whether it be a Band-Aid for now until we get some more funding, or figure out a sustainable funding source. You know, that's something that we should step up and do. So thank you guys.
Thank you. So when she handed us the project over, she did hand us over enough to go for a year. They gave us 300,000. That was to remodel the building, to furnish it, and then to pay. It paid for one or two people's payroll for 1 year for 2025. So they did help us in the beginning quite a bit. I've been asking her, I've been in contact with her and talking to her. She's trying to help me figure things out too. So I went in different directions. I'm just trying all directions. just trying to figure this out. Cause it's not just gonna be 2026. I mean, it's gonna be, 27, 28. If we can't figure it out, we're just not gonna be, it'll all close down 2026, and none of us want to see that happen.
Good.
Teach my
Jeff?
kid how to drive a stick shift, but then I don't give him gas money. Yeah.
Good, Jennifer and then Tom.
Yeah, I would just think that we could use some of our other resources to help, even if we find full funding, I still think having some kind of entrepreneurial thing that
Yes.
you guys do would be really great for lots of reasons. And, I know that there's dollars out there for workforce training. If people got trained to do, I had a really hard time finding a dog groomer. A dog groomer. I don't know what kind of certification. So I'm saying you guys can be really creative. But there's so many people moving here. There's lots of services that people can't get anymore. I had to go to a different town to find someone to give my Chihuahua a bath and cut his nails because there's no one in Polson that had an opening. They're like, no, we're booked. We're not taking any more people. The woman who cuts my hair doesn't take any new clients. She's like, I can't take any new clients. I only serve my existing people that I've had for years. So, taking my car to get fixed, there's a 2-week waiting list before the guy can even look at my car. I got my lawnmower fixed. He said 4 to 6 weeks. We have so many people. Like, okay. Hopefully my lawn doesn't grow that much in the next 6 weeks. Just kidding. But so there's so many opportunities that there's just a lot of opportunities. And I would think that, in businesses like that help give people a second chance. And, maybe people haven't been in the workforce before to get habituated to how do you deal with people? How do you deal with horrible people? Getting along with your coworkers, all of that kind of stuff. So valuable.
And that's one of the pieces coming out of addiction into recovery is learning those skills. And there's not a whole lot of us with a lot of long-term recovery that have built those skills yet. And that takes time to cultivate in humans. So, yeah, but I mean, we can't get somebody in here. I quit using drugs 3 months ago. Now I'm ready to take on the world and give me all of your money because I'm going to work this, you know what I mean? But making that plan and getting that set up, that's really good. The drug addiction, substance abuse disorders is a really tricky thing, especially when you get a successful person in recovery start making money and they don't know how to deal with that money, especially when they don't get their feet under their butts per se. You know what I mean? We try to help them out the best that we can and get them going in that direction. I do hear what you're saying, and there is a lot of it. We're just still trying to build that community. We're still in that building that community. NARS itself has been recognized for the last 6 years as a viable recovery drop-in center. It's only been the recovery village has only been up for 2 years.
Less than that, about a little over a year.
For a little over a
Hasn't been
year.
very long.
So we're still trying to grab. We're still reaching for ropes. We're still, you know what I mean? But absolutely, those are visions to move towards for sure.
Tom and then Carol.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming in this morning. I'm sure we're going to try to help wherever we can. You mentioned you lost your insurance, and because of that, you lost a funding source.
We can't get the drop-in center insured, and because we cannot find insurance for the drop-in center per se, because of the wording in the contract, we can't get insurance. So we lost the contract. They're not paying for our contract.
So if you had insurance, you'd get that contract back?
I believe, yes.
And how much is that contract worth?
I don't have those numbers, but I will get them.
Okay. Because I think, given our broad insurance coverage that we have, because we deal with everything, I don't think that would probably affect our premium too much to add, as long as the legal went through it all. And if that's a limiting factor for funding, we need to fix that.
Yeah.
And so that might be our most cost-effective way to contribute to what you're doing is put you under our blanket insurance. But that's other information you need to provide us, like what was your insurance previously? Why was it inadequate? And then that would be a good review for our legal team and our insurance provider.
That would be great.
Sounds like the biggest thing is like you said, the wording, but also they don't want to insure us because we're on Indian land basically. They don't know how to.
Well, again,
More
that's why
systemic
our
oppression
insurance would be better.
within the wording from the state on the tribal lands.
Yeah, we would just have to, shake out the gross liabilities that you might cause us to have to deal with. Where we would be negligent, where we wouldn't be. And so the insurance company could deliberate whether or not they would add that to our coverage. So what that might cost us.
From what I understand, the main wording in the contract, it says that we'll cover all liability for all state contractor and volunteers. That specific wording has made it, no, we can't do it. We can't do it because it doesn't matter what it's in with our organization, but people up at Blue Bay, people down here at the wherever, all state.
Who was your insurance provider?
We were covered with farmers insurance, I believe. Diane Ivanhoff out in Ronan. I will gain more information. I wish I would have brought my notepad.
Well, no matter what, if once we get into it more, and it should be something that the housing authority should be dealing with also, because they're not escaping their own liability, and neither are we if you're on our property or using our facilities or buildings or whatever. So we're all in it together. So I think that would be one of the simplest things we could do is deal with the insurance. But thank you, Mr. Chair.
Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, Ameren does insure the housing authority, plus they insure the government buildings here for the tribe. So there are options. Like Tom said, you need to bring the document in so we can have legal look at it.
Yeah.
And see what. The other issue is I think it's important for people to understand, why would we help you?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, you're a part of the big picture of our healing process. I think it all started kind of with drug court, Judge Manley and NARS coming together and finally figuring out there's some mechanisms that work for healing people, for helping them get through this process and then keeping them sober. Secondly, the house down here that the tribes provide is a place for people to go to stay sober. So that's a daily thing that people can go to. And then also all of the counseling that is provided by Cedar Creek and also fits in with the healing court. And so the big picture, and then also housing. We've got the house over here for sober women. We've got the hub. We've got the men's sober house up on the hill. All of this stuff provides a lot of assistance for people to get clean in their own community. And I think that's what we strive for, because people can go away and get sober, but then they come home and they think, oh man, I'm back in the same old house, same old thing. Yeah. This is what has changed the dynamic of what's going on this reservation. And it's huge. You can talk about it out in Indian country and everybody invites you and says, come and talk about what you're doing there. Well, we're still in the infancy part of this whole thing. And you guys are that key part to what we're doing here. So that's the story. And there's probably more that I'm not telling. I mean, the gardens, you can just go on and on. The cleaning of communities. I see you out there doing things, roads. It's amazing. And then you show up for people in Lake County, tribal members who are going in front of the judge. You guys, I see you lined up out there in the courtroom, supporting that person, letting them know that, you know what, your next step is to actually come join us, get involved and get sober. And that's what makes a difference here. I believe. I've seen it, but I don't know. Not everybody's in the court system like all of us, so. But yeah, I think that need to be shared. So thank you.
Thank you.
James?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Carol, for the words of support because I haven't been in the court, but I've seen your work on the outside of the court, you know, and talked to different folks that have participated in both up here and there. And it's a unique service and we can't let it go. We got to help you. And I appreciate Tom thinking of, you know, maybe we just incorporate you into our policy because, yeah, we've, as a tribe, have faced that. Well, they're not going to insure you because you're on tribal land. So we've figured out those policies and Carol's actually on, helps with Amarant. She's on the cell commission, chair of the cell commission for Amarant. And so, you know, we're definitely wanting to help. So I appreciate your coming in with time to spare, not at the last moment. Usually people come in and say, well, we need the money yesterday. We're going out tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're giving us some time to work with. That's better to do it that way than the other way. Because when it's scrambling right now, try to help, it's a little too late. And so you're giving us time to help you. So I appreciate you coming in early. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for your work. Thank you for everything you do. All those folks that you probably get upset with. And you told me that story 5 million times. I already heard that one. Yeah, I've heard those too, my own family. So, but thank you for your work and we definitely have my support.
So we'll gather up the information that we've been asked for. We'll also look into getting some sustainability into our future. The contract, the funding,
Breakdown of
the
funding.
breakdown of the funding and for who it's for and for what it's for.
Yep.
Okay,
Martin,
Could we have them just do an
and
agenda
we were gonna
request
hold a Jody also.
so we could actually schedule, you know, adequate time to discuss this rather than walking? So work with, maybe with Carol about getting an agenda request in.
Doing what?
Schedule a time to come in. Instead of walking, we'll do,
Oh, okay,
yeah, when we get our stuff together, we'll schedule.
we get our poop in a group.
Cause we can schedule a time. So thank you guys.
Okay, Lemlem's. Lemlem special.
have a good day.
You too.
That's open.
James, you've had an issue?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I visited with Billy Barquin when I was at AT&I. We were at there was like a drug prevention committee. And he was talking about that we have a protocol agreement that needs to be updated from some like 2004. And so it's a protocol agreement between us and the different bands. And so I asked him to send me that information and let's start working on that. So I had talked about, you know, trying to do this free trade agreement or something with the different bands. And we already have kind of the mechanism in place. We just need to update it. So, and then the other thing is that he says the Kootenai Tribe of Idaho already have IDs that they use to cross the border that are compliant and with an agreement with the
Homeland Security.
appropriate folks crossing the border. So we need to do that. Little Shell I seen on Facebook is offering enhanced real IDs for their members for $15. I have a friend of mine that I told him he apply for it so we know what the process is. So I asked him to apply for the Little Shell Real ID to find out what that process is. So that was kind of my news. Also, that drug prevention committee or whatever it was called was able to help out a couple tribal members that we have in Spokane, directed them to that service. I can't even think of I think I got the thing in my, it's called the Native Project in Spokane. And they serve primarily young people and teenagers that are dealing with mental health, addiction and such. And so it was pretty cool to sit in on that session. But they've got a new building in Spokane. So anyway, I was able to direct a couple tribal members to their services. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, James. Martin, you had an issue?
I was just gonna give an update on my trip, so we got
Okay.
people, we can wait till later.
Okay, and Danielle? Okay. Pat, good morning. Come on up.
How's everyone doing this morning? Good, good. So I'm here today just to kind of give you an update, and I'll just go to the map real quick. I'm sure you're all aware of kind of some of this collaboration that we've been doing with Doer. Try to basically it works in a couple ways, especially in this project for the Jocko blowdown. Just to remind you, we had a pretty big wind event back in July that took out some of our previously treated stands and some stands that hadn't been treated overstory for a while. One being the Little Prairie in Jocko. When we first saw this, we were kind of in a, kind of didn't know exactly what we were gonna do with it. It was about 97% ponderosa pine. As we all know, that market isn't there for us right now. But we knew that it was an important area for a lot of folks, and Division of Fire did an understory burn in here, and this is kind of where that Camas restoration happened. It's kind of like a happy accident for them. I believe it was back in 2015. They thinned out the understory, they burned it, and then we saw this resurgence of Camas in there. That's where the majority of the damage is. That's where the majority of the salvage opportunity was. So once again, we kind of reached out to folks. I had my permit officer reach out to the smaller loggers, and I was kind of talking with some of our larger loggers, and it just wasn't something that people were going to be able to make work. It wasn't going to pencil out. So we, at the same time this was going on, we were approached by Doer, by Tabby, who said she had a lot of wood material that needed to be supplied for their bison range reach. We, as you know, we've kind of had a couple contracts between our loggers and them to get some of the material that they need for this first phase. But they still needed a lot more. So we put this together, and basically what we want to do is we want to sell this to Doer. And the idea is, so we did have one non-member contractor come and say he was interested. I didn't think that it was the right thing to do. I think that the way that we kind of have it planned now is better for the tribes. So we're basically just going to sell them the material. It'll be covered in our BIA contracts. And then what they're planning on doing is getting together a request for quotes, I believe is what they're going to do. They're basically going to open it up, and I'm sure they're going to be using tribal preference and everything to try to get some contractors to actually do the work. So they buy the wood from us. It's a lump sum sale, and then our administrators will administrate it, but they will then contract it out to, hopefully a tribal member will get it. Code of Federal Regulation 163.16 talks about how we can sell timber, tribal timber, without doing a formal advertising process, and that's it states impractical to secure competition by formal advertising procedures. That's kind of how I described it. We didn't get any interest in it at all. So that's kind of the legal side of it that we're using. Talking with BIA, I wasn't sure if I needed a resolution for it. And they seemed to direct us that I didn't need one. But I thought it was important to come and talk to you all about it, just to kind of get what your feeling is about it, and just see if you support this decision to do this, or if you think we should, advertise it like we normally would. And we could do that, and then, we could just see what happens. But right now, TRL, which is our closest and only mill that's taking pine, they're still not taking wood yet. And they're probably talking about not really accepting gatewood until June or July. It just seems to make sense to me. It seems like it's a win-win for all parties, especially for how much I hear about this area. How many calls I get from the public about, well, when are you going to do something about it? And, you know, it's just seems good to me. Yeah, so I guess that's just what I want to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions about it.
Go ahead, Martin.
Are these gonna be pulling the entire tree, including the roots?
Yeah. And so in this area, so you kind of saw like a separate type of disturbance happening here. You had some of these where the roots were holding, but the wind was so severe, it was just snapping them. And then you had this area in particular, it was mainly root pull, and it was, so yeah, they're just sitting there now. So that's kind of the big thing that Doer's interested in, is getting those root wads intact. So it's gonna be a little difficult probably for some people. They're gonna have to rent side dumps or you're gonna have to get creative about how they're gonna do it, because you can't just throw it on a log truck, or you're gonna have DOT on you real quick, and you might be breaking out windshields and everything. So, but I think it is a good opportunity and good work for someone who wanted to try to do it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a perfect example of how we can be creative to do restoration on our lands for both this site and the Jocko River.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've used grit wads and hauled them for many, many years in the Jocko restoration work and in other places. So I think it's, and there's a lot of value to that. Huge value. I can't even put a price tag on that restoration work and what that means to the Jocko River and the water quality and the fisheries and the whole riparian area. So I actually believe that when you have an opportunistic thing like this, where there's root rod present, and you can use that into stream bank stabilization efforts and recreate a river that's been totally, obliviated through a straight line. It's a perfect thing. It's a win-win-win. So I think it's very creative. I think it's one way that we can maximize using one resource to benefit another, but in this case, it's benefiting everyone. So I think it's great.
Cool.
Martin, go ahead.
I guess that's kind of maybe a dumb question, but if you're pulling those root wads out, how much material is going out of the ground, and does that need to be replaced somehow? Or?
Yeah, and that's type of our mitigation, because of course that messes with your nutrient cycling and all that. So yeah, we would have to have them filled and try to take material from around the stand to fill that back in. But like I say, a lot of this is just going to be, the roots are already out, so we'll probably still try to do a little mitigation with it, but yeah.
Carol.
So the CFR covers cut logs. And that's basically what I think maybe I'm totally misunderstanding is the question that you're asking about the resolution. We don't need a resolution due to the fact that this is a different mechanism we're using to use also on our lands to improve.
Yeah, and I guess I was a little unclear on that, and that's kind of why we reached out to BIA, because when you go through that CFR, it talks about, how you need a resolution for permission to advertise, but it's still a tribal resource, but I guess the language wasn't in it for, you need a resolution for permission not to advertise based on this CFR regulation. So it's a little confusing to me too. That's why we kind of reached out to the people that are,
Did legal, have you talked to legal at all?
Didn't talk to legal.
Legal would
Not
be the
yet,
one that could.
but I know Doer's been in contact with legal about it.
Okay. I think you're covered as long as you got legal involved, whether they should be able to tell you whether you need a resolution.
Yeah, and then I know a lot of it is, a lot of it was dealing with BIA contracts compared to tribal contracts.
Yeah,
So,
and I agree with Tom. I'm glad we're using our own stuff to.
yeah, and we are planning on trying to develop, projects in the future
I think you just figured out a way around the BIA.
That'd be nice, huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's material that, ended its lifespan based on Mother Nature. It wasn't a sawyer going out there cutting down a granddaddy tree.
Yeah.
And we're moving, this wood product, this already terminated wood product from one piece of tribal property to another piece of tribal property. It's not going to a mill.
Yep.
So I think that's the main escape route for not needing a resolution or BIA.
Yeah.
The value is a different value. It's a value that you're caretaking.
Yeah.
And, not exploiting. So, I think it's a wonderful project.
Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Pat, these logs, most of them are already blue and everything else. That's down up there. These mills are gonna take that logs since they're blue like this?
Well, so in this situation, they'll be going to the Bison Range Reach, but if there is a few specialized mills that would take blue stain pine. They like to mix it in with like, especially the one in Columbia Falls. They'll mix it with hardwoods and make furniture out of it or something like that. But when you're talking about any type of real worth, it's typically worth a lot less. So you're getting a lot less for your blue stain. And then they fill up really quick too.
Yeah. So when are you planning on doing this?
As soon as possible, and with the word going around that the superintendent's going to be gone. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but I'd like to get this signed and through before we have to send it off to Portland to get it signed.
Okay.
So if we could get it signed by Friday, that'd be beautiful.
James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we need to seriously consider if the superintendent is gone. If not, if he is, we'll have to designate somebody to hand deliver stuff over there and go in there and get it signed.
Yeah.
I mean, just whatever it is, load up the car and head over 2 or 3 staff people and bring that stuff into the office over there and get it signed.
Yeah.
If we have to track down whomever, we'll track them down and find them and get him, hey, sign this.
Cause it's a big,
Is your responsibility as a trustee to sign these things.
Yeah.
So I mean, superintendent or not, we'll find whomever to get to sign this stuff, so.
And it's a big concern for, I think, everyone who has to deal with it. Yeah. Yeah. And now, we don't even know if they're in Portland or if they're in, Idaho or if they're in Washington. We don't know where they're at. And we haven't even been given a contact yet. So I don't know.
The other thing I really like about this project is because its uniqueness, Dewar will be able to really exploit all of our tribal contractors to the maximum ability of what they have and how they can help carry this out, because it's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that our people are great with, is being creative and taking care of getting the job done and something like this. So this is perfect for our logging contractors or other contractors.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, I guess you have a question to ask legal and move forward.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, everyone.
We're looking for Aaron. Come on up, Aaron. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to steal 1 minute of Aaron's time and let you know that with the Dewar project you just talked about, we're also going to do native orb or, plant breast revegetation there. So there's kind of that value added there. Tabby's, going to try to restore the understory plant community. The other very quick thing I'll bring to your attention is starting tomorrow, we're going to start to clear the staging areas for the North Fork Jocko project using Forest Development, who is sort of out of work at the moment. So, and in addition to that, we're going to put informational signs up on the roads up there. So to show them where road closures may occur, temporary road, just informational sign why we're doing the project. Might take us a little while to get them together because we would like them to be nice. And we'll probably do a flyer in the Charcusta kind of thing too. So, but just to let you know that. So, yeah, thank you.
Danielle?
It breaks my heart that you guys have to break ground up there and clear up there, but I know it's necessary. So just take good care of it, please. Thank you.
Martin and Tom.
Just wanted to thank you last night, Seth. You did a great job in Deer Lodge, the Milltown Dam water right meeting, and yeah, really great job. So thank you. And all the staff that provide all the support as well.
Quite another day.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Yeah, you didn't end up in the big house over there anyway. That's the good news. Expect no less. You do a great job. Is there going to be a dust abatement during that project up there?
Yes, yeah, there will be. Yeah. The first year is, we're not really going to be in the river. We're going to stabilize the cut slope there. There's a specialty subcontractor coming in to stabilize the big erosion surface there. So that's really that, and getting the staging areas, kind of getting the site ready. But yes, we'll have dust abatement, and we've committed to do dust abatement all the way down to, all the way down into the county road system there. Yep.
Are we ready for Aaron?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and council members. JD Thinning reached, I think his name is Marlon Kaufman, who's the owner of that company, had reached out to the water rights program for permission to use the tribe's water right for their construction and dust abatement project that they're doing for Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks out at Yellow Bay. It's according to section 2-2-102 of the UAMO, where the tribes can provide written consent to use the tribal water right if that's something the council is interested in letting him do. And then our office was also going to request if the council was comfortable to let us provide written consent in the future for very small uses of water. He plans on using less than 10,000 gallons a day for approximately 1 to 3 days for their construction project.
What these are short-term temporary uses of the tribal water right. And they go in increments up to 60,000 gallons a day.
Yeah.
And we like that they come in for the permit rather than go rogue and just take the water. These are water trucks with small pumps basically. And so what we're asking for approval for JD Thinning, they're fixing up the Yellow Bay Fish, Wildlife and Parks campground. But what Aaron is also bringing to your attention is that we think these are very small activities, and that you delegate to Aaron's program the authority to just sort of execute the process for these water uses. For example, say we have a fire and they want to pump for tenders out of there. So rather than coming into the council each time for a very de minimis pumping use of water, that it be delegated to the water rights program, just to streamline it, not to circumvent anything. But and then if we think it rises to the occasion of the council approval, we would do that. But the ordinance allows for basically a very streamlined process for short-term uses of the tribal water right. And we're trying to create a circumstance where people will come in for permits rather than, whatever happens on the
Just
back
take
road,
water.
that we
Yeah.
don't ever see. So, so it's, yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just one question, and it really has to do with more fire equipment. Glad you brought that up. But one of the issues on these water delivery systems, tankers, pumper trucks, whatever, is the potential transmission of invasive species. So I don't know if if we were to give a blanket thing, would there be a checklist for that? that you would implement
Um,
for AAS?
we could, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
We could retain the authority to inspect the equipment.
Mhm.
Well, it'd be nice if if the equipment had that inspection just required by the local AIS inspector, whether it's Fish, Wildlife and Parks or us.
Amanda and Aaron, I believe I'm a little out of touch on this one. We made a special form for this, so we could add to that form that they require an inspection. And they can do that at the check stations, right?
They
Yeah.
could, but just that classic worst case scenario, you're talking about like the issue with Pebble Reservoir right now, removing milfoil, I think is that what's in
Yeah,
Pebble?
yeah.
So it's really easy for a tanker truck like that to pick that up somewhere else in their construction work and offsite somewhere in a whole different drainage, the other side of the state, and then come here, and then that bug is still there, and somehow it ends up moving into the lake through that movement of water. That's the issue. So yeah, it'd be great to have everything pre-inspected. It's tough to do that with the aerial stuff. Say they want to come in with their scooper planes and want a permit, nobody ever seems to permit them, but it's the same issue.
Mhm. We can use the same procedures that the Reeds use when they're fighting fire here.
We can add that to the form, the permit form that we've asked for, and then we assume with aerial suppression that fire control is tracking that, because then the resources are, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to work on that one. Yeah.
I think they're just trying to deal with the retardant issue.
Go ahead, Carol.
I think it's okay to inspect, but okay, let's say you inspect and you find something. Where is the nearest station to clean? Do we know that?
It would be Kalispell or Ravalli.
Okay, because I know even my fire engines, there's each fire you go to, you're inspected and washed down, and there's washing stations, but yeah, it seems like that's quite a ways away. You have them out here seems like there should be something out at fire control washing station or something.
Well, they could certify their own staff to be inspectors. So then you has to be cleaned. Then you're gonna go wherever that hot water wash station is. You could bring in a portable hot wash station to clean it out, if that's what it requires.
And that might be something Dewar could justify as tied to the short-term use of the tribal water right? Because yeah.
You try, I'd make the motion to approve the request.
Motion by Tom to approve the de minimis use of water by JD Thinning and to authorize the program to make these authorizations or give this permit. Second by Carol. All in favor? It's unanimous. I'd love to see the form.
Yeah, we can go ahead and send you the form so you guys can look over it. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and council members.
Morning, Les, you're next. Come on up.
Yeah, drag Barry with you. Come on, Barry, get up here.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, gentlemen. My first question, Barry, do you have the bumper blossoms on your cherries like everybody else?
It's going to be a big year.
Are you gonna find pickers?
That's a big problem.
Did you talk to Trump about it?
Fortunately, I don't talk to him at all.
Is there a way to plug in a PowerPoint here anymore?
There is. It might be underneath the table now.
Yeah, they reconfigured stuff there.
I'll start without it. It's what I've provided. If he can pull it up, it'll be a little bit more efficient than the attachment, which was a document that I brought the author for. It was a document that we used to explain what we want to distill down to you a little bit. Great. Perfect. So how do we fire this baby up? Oh, yeah, there we go. Looks a little different. In the beginning. So a couple months ago, I came in and talked to you about netting north on Flathead Lake, taking our netting suppression program to the north, and talk to you a little bit about the bull trout interagency recovery team and what that is and how that would provide a process to get hopefully support and get the word out so nobody gets surprised. And I wanted to go through that a little bit with you today and show you what we shared with them so far and how I think this is going to unfold in the future. But the BERT is those agencies, the alphabet soup you see up there, probably recognize all those, but it's all federal entities, 2 tribes in the state of Montana. And these are anybody that has anything to do with trying to implement bull trout recovery in Montana. And it's a way to get together and exchange information, get support, funding support, political support, scientific support for projects. And there's 3 teams there. There's a technical team role there. That would be biologists on the ground like Barry here. There's a steering team role there, which is a blend of a bunch of different agencies, top brass, scientific thinkers. We have university professors and USGS researchers on there. And I'm going to brag a minute, I'm on it.
All of it.
I'm in all of it. But that's the steering team, and we presented the document that's attached to your the agenda request to them last week. And then there's the executive team role, and they're more of the policymakers. The idea here is good ideas we're going to come up from the folks out in the field. We need to do this for bull trout. They kind of get a check with the steering team to see if the science is right, if they need to. And then if there's some need to go to the executive team, like a funding request and need support for funding requests or some political support, that's where it would come. So it's kind of like a 3-step process. You might propose an action on the ground. This is what we did. We think we have good evidence and data that support the need to become more efficient and achieve our goals on Flathead Lake. We need to go north of the line. Now, we haven't done that for a lot of different reasons, haven't felt we needed to actually, and it's going to cause a stir, so we don't do that. But the data that we're going to share with you today, I think, is pretty convincing that it's probably time to do that. So we did that, and then that went to the steering team last week, and they evaluated the science and actually took a vote, and it was not unanimous, but it was the majority. Yeah, this is good science. It's the right thing to do for bull trout. Thursday this week, the executive team's going to see it for the first time, the proposal, and that's the step 3. You know, what we're really asking from them is political support. How do we deal with the social issues? How do we get the information out so nobody's surprised? And that everybody, including the public, understands why we're doing it. And specifically, we want support from the BERT to do this because it's the right thing to do for bull trout recovery. So these are just some graphs that I'm pulling from the document that you have attached to your agenda requests. The most important ones that are I think paints a pretty good story. So this is simply what happened in Flathead Lake. You know, mysis happened and then kokanee crashed because lake trout became so abundant due to mysis in juvenile recovery. They ate all the kokanee, then they had to feed on something else. Unfortunately, they went for the native trout. Bull trout plummeted. And it was this event in Flathead Lake that got the eyes of the public on it and petitioned for protection under ESA. So it's a high profile population. It's the highest profile population certainly in the state, if not the Northwest, because it really is that precipitous decline of bull trout is really what caused the listing. So that's pretty obvious. This just shows you what we've been doing over time. We started it on this under the co-management plan in 2002. We built up, as you can see in green, MAC days, and it started to plateau about 2010, 2012. We knew we had a problem. We'd milked it for all it was good for, and we spent a couple of years doing an EIS to pull out agency suppression netting, if you will. That continues on in the orange, and you can see how we built that program up until 2020. That little blip down in 2020 is COVID. We had to stop. Everybody came to a halt, and that cost us a little progress there, but got back at it and continued to improve it. 22, 23, we kind of had mechanical difficulties that held us back, but in 2024, I'll show you some other graphics here. We're just having a harder time catching fish because we're successful. And that's a good thing, but it also makes it more expensive. Are we being successful? These are just a couple quick graphics out of the document. We have a spring netting series and a fall netting series designed to monitor what's going on in the lake. Both of them are complementary in showing that we are indeed reducing lake trout. These are catch per unit effort data or average number in the net, and they're declining. It's clearly getting more difficult to catch fish. This is just a real blunt graphic. It's showing the last 5 years of our netting data, catch per 900 foot of net. You know, we're clicking along about the same, 21, 22, 23. In 2024, we noticed this is last year. It's just harder to catch fish in our nets. MAC days, a little bit different story, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then this year, 2025, it's we're seeing it again, and we're probably not going to get as high as what we did in 2024. So it's just getting more costly to catch fish in our nets. Now, this data set's what I'm calling the grand experiment, at least to the steering team when we presented this last week. This is showing pre-2010 and post-2010, a comparison of the netting success on and off reservation. So north and south, obviously, the lake's about split in half. And you can tell that the nets in the south are just simply not as effective as what the ones are in the north. Now, these are the same data as these. So they're random, distributed all over the lake in all different habitats. So it's a pretty clean data set. It's also a 22-year data set. Did I get that right? Pretty long term. So this is a large set of data that usually scientists don't really, we always say we want more data, right? And we're not that sure, but this is kind of in your face. The differences are showing up. And this is what we brought to the steering team. And said it's time to go off reservation. This is a cost, not a cost benefit, an efficiency thing. It's getting more and more costly for us to catch fish in nets, and we think we can bring that cost down simply by ignoring the political border. So we also know that when we do that, there's going to be, again, a stir. We're going to be in the news again, and we just want to make sure that everybody, particularly the BERT, understands it, why we're doing it, and they support it. We got the support mostly from the scientific end of the BERT last week. Thursday, I'll be meeting on the executive team and presenting largely the same data. We're not going to go into the science. All I really have to say is technically we've got the science behind us here. It's all about a social political thing. Now, and I'm sure the only holdouts here, the only people that are going to be truly conflicted at the executive level is the state of Montana, because we have some history there, if you will. It's never been truly clear whether they truly supported lake trout suppression. They certainly didn't support netting, but the sky didn't fall. And they didn't even support MAC days when we started MAC days. They really, it's been on again, off again. They're really hard to sort out. On the other hand, they do support us because they participate in MAC days.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. You're hitting my nerve like they're doing it. The hypocrisy's been crazy with them. They'll do the netting over on the other side, but then if we try it, it's just, but
A great hypocrisy, and their technical folks were conflicted or voted no on the science, but they can't separate science from politics. A line that I'm going to use if you're referring to Swan Lake is, this is another thing that's going to the executive team on Thursday. Should the tribes here be proposing only netting the south half of Swan Lake? How effective is that going to be? I mean, you know, I mean, it's really this silly, and it's going to be hard for me not to poke a little fun at some of the things they've done. I'm going to be careful, but I want to be particularly careful, and I want to plant a seed with you folks that I think this is an opportunity. If the other 9 members of the executive, 8 members, and the only standout or conflicted ones, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, for reasons we really can't understand, we'll make them explain it and put it in writing maybe, but I think this is an opportunity for them to support it, work with us with public announcements, get out good PR. They can jump onto the side of truly native species. You know, they're truly conflicted between a recreational fishery, if you will, based on lake trout, and this conservation action for bull trout. But we've always been saying all along that we are only implementing what was agreed by the 2 governments in the co-management plan. That's always been our defense. And they do participate in MAC days, so they're quite conflicted, but they're kind of sitting out the tribes are clearly managing, and in the news lately are these criticisms that the public's seeing that tribes are truly managing the fishery here, and the state is sitting on the sideline certainly doing nothing, but they're not getting in the way right now. So this is an opportunity for them to join with us and champion native fish, but do the management that we wanted here, which is not an annihilation of the lake trout population. It's a different managed lake trout population that will support our fishery. So we just want them to get back on board with the co-management plan. And what I'm going to say is this is your opportunity to get back on board and do co-management. Now, this might be a tough one for the council, and I don't want answers today, especially from Tom. But the other thing the co-management plan said was we'll rejigger this lake trout population to support about the same, and the other diversity that it'll cause. I mean, there's other things coming on the lake that are healthy and fishing that aren't a detriment to bull trout. But we'll do that in part by protecting large lake trout, because large trophy fish attract more fishing days. People are willing to fish longer for large fish than they are small fish. This is another piece of data from Barry's document here, and it shows the decline in the catch of large fish. So we are having an impact. And this impact didn't go unnoticed in spring MAC days. If you've been reading things like the Beacon, when we had to pull back on awarding some of the big ticket fish, the $10,000 fish we had to take off the docket because we were so successful, we were catching so many fish, they were small fish, and it got noticed. And there's a whole article out there in the Beacon about the shift in this population and what are we going to do about it. Well, the final slide here is, these are direct quotes out of the co-management plan. This is something we committed to. And I haven't breached this recently with FWP, but we have talked about not long ago in the past that we're kind of embarrassed that we don't have the same regulations on the entire lake. It looks like we're not co-managers. And if we can't come together with consistent regulations on the fishery that we want there, lake trout, I think we don't look like co-managers. I prefer to co-manage this. And they should prefer it too, because as we become successful, we're already being successful. We can't say bull trout have clearly responded yet, but there are some indications. But 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, when we've successfully benefited bull trout, I'm willing to share the credit with them, even though they deserve almost none of it. But I'm willing to say it's time to come back to the table, co-manage. Let's talk about a consistent regulation that protects what we said we'd do on large lake trout and become co-managers again and pat ourselves on the back for our successes with native trout conservation. I think that story and challenge to them, along with everybody else in the BERT supporting this action, I think they'll work with us to do some appropriate PR and speak to the public correctly.
Go ahead, James.
Tom told me to say, what did you say? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. This whole thing has just been, frustrating for you all and frustrating for us as a tribe that we constantly get criticized no matter what we do in this arena. We're getting arrows thrown at us by the state. Who's doing what? What are they doing on their half of the lake? Have they done anything for 20 years, since 2000 on their side of the lake, anything proactively that we've been doing? And I always thought it was just crazy when they would be attacking us. Well, let's do netting on our side, but yet they would criticize if we even talked about it, but yet here just freely doing it over on the other side of the mountains. Like, I don't know, like we were idiots. Like, well, no, we're not dumb. We see you doing that over there. Now you're trying to, that kind of stuff always irritated me in this arena.
Yeah.
And I think my main question is, Barry and yourself, what are the indicators, or what will you start seeing? When will you start seeing like bull trout and the other fish start becoming more prevalent, as opposed to, we've got this data here showing us that the lake trout is going down, but when will you start seeing data on those other species of fish increasing?
Give you a chance.
It's a really good but impossible question. So step one was to get the lake trout numbers reduced. And we're very pleased that we're showing good signs of success there. There are many other factors that influence bull trout. Unfortunately, they're subject to so many, but the most important is lake trout. So we're getting a handle on that. We do have some glimmers of hope. Coal Creek on the North Fork of Flathead River and fairly close to the lake, which means lake trout probably have a bigger influence on them. Last year, the red counts, the nest count in that stream was at a 30-year high. It was shocking how much it has come back. And in earlier years, the red count was 0. So that's a cherry-picked example. A lot of other streams just haven't responded. So we hope with continued suppression and greater than what we've done so far, we're going to see that response. But there really hasn't been adequate response yet to really celebrate.
Question, Mr. Chair. Can you explain what a red count means?
Sorry, so these migratory trout spawn in flowing streams and they dig out a pit to lay the eggs in, and then they fan gravel down over that pit, and that nest is called a red. It's a Scottish term.
Leave it to the Scots.
Yes.
That weird tasting stuff they drink, and yeah, I don't like that stuff.
Go ahead, Tom.
You're insulting my Scottish heritage now, aren't you? Damn it, leaving. One of the interesting things about limiting factors for bull trout, again, they're a fall spawner. So, climate change and runoff and temperatures have a big factor on that. But I think we did a really good job identifying all those limiting factors, trying to do the best thing we can, designating protected areas, doing the best forest management. You know, it's the headwaters of the Flathead system have national parks, wilderness areas, and pretty good stewardship occurring today that's making up for past impacts that really were harming them. Of course, you have a big dam called Hungry Horse on one of the forks, but those are all things other than the gauntlet of these fish running up the river and having to deal with northern pike and a few other predators. That's something I'd like to get after also. But my question for this particular slide you have on the screen right now is that where are your recreational angler day graphics? What's going on with that? I just assume that there's more anglers out there today than there was 20 years ago because they're fishing for a more of a diverse fishery. Is there any truth to that at all?
We don't have hard data on it. Fish, Wildlife and Parks does a mail-in survey, and they haven't done that since, I think it was 20. And as the council saw, after COVID, recreational activity went way up. So across the board, we saw increases in angling activity pretty much everywhere. But we don't have really recent data on Flathead Lake. Plus, we have distorted it somewhat by stimulating so much activity through MAC days. But I think as to that commitment we made in the plan to maintain that 50,000 angler days, we really haven't fallen below that. I don't think it's boomed, but it's been maintained.
The biggest complaint before for trying to maintain that attractive wall hanging fish was basically the guides, the outfitters on the north end of the lake. And so there's been changes and dynamics there. But, you know, I really struggle with this one, you know, intentionally growing big fish that are unsafe to eat. But the unique thing about Flathead Lake is, and you take the casual person, and I'm going to look at our folks right up here, and particularly the females on our board here. And how likely would you be to go out and catch a 30-pound lake trout and even know how to do that or have the tools to do that or the boat to do that? But what you do have the tools to is probably have an angler in your family or a fishing pole. You might fish from the shore. You might cast out at Blue Bay. You might do something else like that. And the odds of catching a fish of that size doing that are almost nil. So, you know, trying to rationalize, you know, the potential for a woman in childbearing years or a pregnant woman consuming a 8-ounce lake trout fillet from a 20-year-old fish is really diminished. And that it's not the same as what we normally angle for, fishing the Jocko or fishing high mountain lakes. And so the risk factor is different for me. And so I've been trying to change my ways, just so you guys know. But that's how I would rationalize it. If we wanted to, you know, if that's so much of an attractant, but when all the studies I ever did, particularly like kicking horse, remember 30 years ago, what was the value of that recreational angler day on kicking horse? It was like $90 or $110 for the local community. You know, an outfitter doesn't provide that same thing. It's really central to that. So that the most economic windfall from Flathead Lake fishery is not from the outfitting business. It's from the generalist, us going up the Blue Bay, casting from the dock, or, you know, mom and pop with their little fishing boat, or those folks that just live around the lake and angle that way. It's those economic values that should be that consideration. So I think we're doing a great job with that because the information and the number of anglers that you've brought to the table through MAC days is incredible because so many people didn't even know how to fish for them. I don't know how many tribal members I know today that fish lake trout because they never did it before. It's only because of MAC days. So what you've brought to the table is new anglers, and they know what they're fishing for. They know they're educated. They know the healthy size fish to go after. And so it's a whole different paradigm today. So I really think we're successful with the recreational angling goal and objectives. And I could see where we could, have a give and take on the large fish. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Several comments. That was a good one. And one I've been pointing out to the team, I think the tribes, through these actions we've done through netting and MAC days, we've done more to educate the public as to the plight of bull trout, especially on non-native issues, than anybody else in the state. A lot of good I&E stuff out there, but these programs that we're implementing have really educated the public. So I think we can also work on that to bring the public on in. A couple things about red counts that I think are important. One, Barry didn't mention it, but that stream he did mention is one of the closest ones to the lake. That's significant. The other thing you have to understand about red counts and what threw us in the beginning is to see that response, it takes the delay of about 4 or 5 years because these fish don't create reds for 4 or 5 years. It's just the adults you're seeing there. That was one of the things that caught everybody up short when they disappeared all of a sudden. We had a 5-year delay because those were it was the young juveniles that were being preyed upon and disappearing that didn't return to the spawning tributary. So there's this delay that we're going to see in this recovery effort. So we could be on the cusp of it any year now. I'm starting to see that increase in the reds, but you'd expect a delay.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you. I was just for rhetoric's sake or whatever, if the state had been as proactive on the north half as we have been, what hypothetically could we be seeing in terms of, what would these data potentially have been all during this time if the state would have been as proactive as we are, or let us have been as proactive on the north half?
Yeah. Complicated, and it goes to your question about what they are doing. And something else I'm going to dwell on at the executive team. So we're co-mitigators on the Hungry Horse Dam. They have a BPA program just like we have a BPA program. And BPA, by the way, is involved, it funds MAC days, a fair amount of it, maybe 50% now. Now the state takes their money and they've made this nonsensical separation that they won't spend that money on Flathead Lake. I know they can, and we're going to have that debate. And ultimately, I think they will start participating even in lake trout suppression 5 years down the road once we're successful. But what they are doing, which is just as bad, is they're spending $1 million a year. I don't know what it is, but it's a big budget. Doing habitat work in the tributaries to benefit native trout. So all the losses identified from hydropower at Hungry Horse were to native trout to Flathead Lake, because as Tom mentioned, it cut off all the South Fork to those fish from Flathead Lake. That was 40% of the spawning. So when we do these mitigation activities, we identified what the impacts are. So the impacts, believe it or not, from Hungry Horse aren't the Hungry Horse or the South Fork. They're entirely the Flathead Lake. And they're in numbers of native trout. So what is the state doing? Well, they're pissing away $1 million a year up there doing habitat work just to generate more small fish to come down here to feed lake trout. So that's not completely fair, but the benefits from those money spent up there are not truly realized because we're down here, we're the only ones with the comeuppance to work on the actual limiting factor. So I'm going to make that point to them that they're kind of throwing money away, and as co-mitigators, I got to remind them that the losses that are Flathead Lake, if you want to do something good for native trout in Flathead Lake, you need to get on board with us. And initially, that's support for going north, and we'll prove that we'll be more effective so we can make it more cost acceptable. Our costs will go down. Wouldn't surprise me in 5 years from now with some turnover maybe, that they'll have if they don't like us Indians coming up there and netting off the reservation, they need to pick it up, because I want to tell them, we're going to do it with or without your support. And so you're going to have to deal with it either way. And it's going to be a lot easier for you to deal with it as a partner than as in opposition. And I think they'll see that. Now that may be an idle threat. That's really up to you guys, whether we want to do it with or without Bert's support or state support. But I think if you phrase it to them that way, they're gonna see it's time to get on board.
I'm willing to phrase it that way.
Well, think about it. They can either, they're in a bad situation either way. If they oppose us, they're gonna look pretty bad to all the other entities in Burt and maybe even to more public than they understand. The people that will support them are those 10 charter boat operations. But if they're with us, they'll be on the right side of history and everything. It'll be hard for them either way, supporting us. But I think the harder path is getting in our way. And this Burt process allows us, unlike under the other co-management things, where we tried to resolve things with the Joint Fish and Wildlife Board, the Joint Fish and Wildlife Board could make a decision that they'd walk away and not accept it. This is a little bigger profile here. This is all the agencies that have anything to do with bull trout recovery. You can either support bull trout recovery or not. It's up to them.
What else? Go ahead, Barry.
I'd just like to wrap up a couple of loose ends. Back to James' question, it's hard to estimate, but I would guess we're at least 5 years behind in the process without getting state help. So, yeah, we could have some of the questions better answered and maybe farther along in bull trout recovery had they helped. So that's unfortunate, but I just give the tribes plenty of credit for going ahead and getting it done to this point. Then on education, the vice chair, I gave an article recently, if he could read it between softball games. But there were some points in that article that we have measured the awareness of some of the advisors, the consumption advisors that we have. And over the last 10 years, we've seen an increase in awareness. So that's helpful with respect to the fact that we live really in a dangerous, polluted world. So we have to be well-informed consumers in what we're eating and what the risks are. And fish are very important that way as something that's very healthy, but also has the downside of some contaminants. So that has to be evaluated. And then further related to the toxicity of big fish and whether or not to advance them, the same risk can happen with little fish. If someone only had access to fish and ate them every day, and if they were small, they would still have a mercury problem. So unfortunately, with a big fish, you don't want to eat it all because only one meal would have a detriment. But you could run into the same trouble if you ate fish too often without that awareness. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the interesting things in the articles that, so many smaller fish are getting caught by your participants is it reminds me of that pushback, they're fighting back lake trout by increasing their reproductive rate, and that's why you have more small fish. It's another sign that you're being successful in reduction. But that means you even have to push back farther on your side to counteract that, and which means, explore using the entire lake. And one of the interesting things about your proposal, at least in my perspective, is that by utilizing the entire lake, like we should have from day one, because we certainly do it with mat days, they can fish the whole lake, but for netting, we should use the entire lake, is the bycatch. So you'll be able to find more better places to reduce the catch of the fish you're trying to save, which would be bull trout or cutthroat. So it's pretty important to be able to utilize the entire geography of the entire lake to be able to minimize bycatch. And because you don't want to incidentally take a bull trout. And so that's a critical element. And that should always be a factor. And that should be a factor for the policy or the two committees that you're still have to go to less, is that bycatch issue. It should be. And anyway, I love that one where you don't just net half a Swan Lake. That's just so good.
The bycatch is very important, and it's another argument in addition for going north that If we had to stay south, we think we could still succeed, but we would catch fewer lake trout in each net, meaning we would have to set a lot more nets. And each time we set a net, we run the risk of bycatch of bull trout. So we can set fewer nets going north, catch more lake trout, and then less bycatch.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
And just also throwing out there too that John Harrison and Zach Zempel are willing to help politic this on the backside or talk to FWP and sort of bring this in to our partnerships with them on the state level. So though this is being talked about at the BERT, there's probably also that part where we need to start pushing from the Helena side. And they're maybe not here today. I'm not sure if legal's on yet. But that's something to also keep in mind for our strategy.
Yeah, thanks, Whisper. I've said from the start, I think this really has to come down from even higher than FWP, because when the local commissioner up here calls Helena, they're not going to call FWP, they're going to call the lieutenant governor who appointed him. And so everybody needs to at least be aware and hopefully at some level see the pros and cons of providing the support. And then the direction down to the region needs to be clear from Helena that this is, yes, this is important to the state of Montana. It's something they want to do. Because I think we got to, if the decision was made at the local level where the people are going to take the most heat, I know what the decision is going to be, and it's not going to be with us. But if the decision is made broader at the BERT level for support, and then everybody in Helena understands that this is the right thing to do and be on the right side of history, if you will, I think they need to give direction, and not so much direction, just make sure that the local regional folks have the support from the government in general, as Whisper's saying here. So I think that's very important. And a lot will be, there's going to be 2 executive team meetings. There's going to be one Thursday. This just gets introduced, and then they're going to set another one up to debate it. And hopefully that second one's more about how do we get the good PR out and the information out and present it to the public in the best way. I hope that's what the second meeting is going to be about.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Whisper, for bringing that up and Les reminding us of that importance. I know that that was a dramatic factor in our first initial, activities, and we were able to utilize the then Representative Greg Hertz to counterbalance the representative from Big Fork. And not only did Mr. Hertz support us full faith and understood the science behind it all, he actually provided the product in his stores. So we were selling our lake trout fillets to help pay for the suppression of lake trout in the Super One markets.
Thank you, Les. Thank you, Barry. I understand.
The first action item, Mr. Chairman and council members, that we'd look to approve is a joint retainer agreement. Chelsea, do you want to name the individual? I don't have that right in front of me.
Sure. The joint retainer agreement is for Guy Alcenser to represent both CSKT and Citizens for a Better Flathead in future litigation.
That was handed out, right, Mr. Chair? I seen it in the, motion.
Motion by Carol to approve the retainer agreement. Second by James. All in favor? We're unanimous.
Okay, then the second action item, Mr. Chairman and council members, would be to approve Amendment 1 to the land ordinance, Ordinance 45C.
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by James to approve the amendment to the land ordinance. Second by Martin. All in favor? I've got 5-4, Carol abstains, and I'm opposed. Okay. Carries.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
I'm opposed because it's not being applied to all fee land on the reservation. One o'clock.
Yeah, I'll retain you as my attorney. Come after me.
Yep,
Half hour break.
1 o'clock.
That's a good burger. Thank you for the burger, guys. Good, oh yeah.
Wasn't sent to me. But I can bring that up to Carla and the financial crew to make sure that that's what we're doing.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve the correcting journal entries. Motion by Bing. Second by Tom. All in favor? Martin? I think we're unanimous.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, John.
Council, have a good day.
Was that it for Joe and John?
Yeah.
Come on up, Gary. We can get you going. Good afternoon.
There you go.
There it is. You'd think I'd get used to that. So as I'd shared with you when we visited with Dr. Burke a couple of months ago, that we had a potential opportunity to expand our children's program. And it's taken a few weeks to kind of pull some pieces together. But the bottom line is I'm very, very excited to announce that Dr. Darby Leffler from R. Lee wants to join us. Absolute miracle. IHS has 140 open positions. I mean, it's just, but he did spend 2 years with me. And he said, you know, those were the greatest days of my career. And he said, I'm just tired of this, you know, run them in turnstile type of dentistry. He really wants to get involved with the community. So we finally got those elements put together. And so I was informed we had a vacancy that was Dr. Sievert's, which has been vacant for I don't know how many years, probably 2 or 3. Anyhow, so we could move that position, and that's why we're here. Apparently for an org chart movement, even within my division, we have to get permission to do that. And so what we want to do is move Dr. Leffler up next to Dr. Burke, so we would have 2 pediatricians. So that's the basic element of our meeting, to have permission from you to allow me to do that. In addition, and fortunately, once again, you cannot find a dental assistant, but good Jennifer and Danica Claremont You know, we work with the students and we've got two that are very interested in working with us. Turns out that Natalie used to work with Dr. Leffler in Missoula. And she worked for us because she wanted to get out of that. And she lives in Charlotte and wanted to slow things down, kind of like Darby wants to. So she can help train because he's going to need, you know, 2 assistants in addition to Natalie. So in that org chart, asking permission to get add 2 more assistants to Darby. I talked with Joe, and we have the money. You know how Joe is. We went through those scenarios, and he's got a couple of squares that he thinks that I can access to bring into those positions. So it's really been a kind of a tumultuous period trying to put all those pieces together, and Darby had to sell his part of his practice, and you know those things just don't happen overnight, you know. So and lastly, unfortunately, and I'm not sure, but our benchmark for that position, I didn't even know we had a benchmark for a pedodontist. And so personnel said, well, how come you didn't say anything? I said, well, I've got a pedodontist. I never in a million years figured I'd have another one come forward, especially like Darby. And of course, it's about $30 below what, and Darby is not asking for the sky. I mean, pedodontists are the highest paid dentists along with orthodontists in the dental world. So anyhow, should we go into exec to talk salary?
We'll go out of regular into executive. Got a motion by Carol to adjust the org chart from a general dentist to a pediatric dentist and 2 assistants. Second by Jennifer.
The what?
That's next,
To
Carol.
reflect what your request was,
Okay.
the motion.
Okay.
That original one was to move the one Dr. Seaver's position and make it, I've got the PD for a pediatric dentist, number 1, to move it. Because I was told that you can't move within the system without your permission, so, which is fine. And secondly, then, to increase our ability to pay Dr. Leffler what he's requested.
You were asking for 2.
And, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, and 2 dental assistants. I mean, the squares, Joe's got.
Yeah, I was
We're playing some games
taking
with,
Carol's motion on the org chart.
yeah, just for the org chart.
And Jennifer's second for the org chart, and all in favor. And we're unanimous. And now we need another motion to increase above the
ability to pay Dr. Leffler
yeah,
his requested
right
salary.
I'd make the motion.
Second by all in favor? Unanimous.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just can't believe it. So, and I do want to thank you while I have the chance. Those 2 new chairs are functioning very well. Dr. Burke's production, which I shared with Joe, is going up. He's another 10% up just because he's running 3 chairs. So, and he has the capacity and the staff that can do that. And Darby will have that down in Mission. So
he doesn't pull the wrong tooth.
Work.
Jennifer.
Just a side note, Darby and I went to high school together. We graduated in the same class. And we walked together at graduation because we were organized by height and we're both really short.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary. Welcome. Good afternoon, Kathy. You turn the mic on. It should show up red when you do. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Okay. So I'm here to make a request to council that to appoint a committee to oversee the opioid settlement funds. I just felt that there needed to be a collective group of people that are already addressing this situation. So we could develop, we could have more collaboration, have more of a strategic plan, more of a comprehensive plan, knowing what other programs are doing, so we're not duplicating, stepping on each other's toes or getting in the way of each other, but we can develop a more, like I said, a strategic plan across the reservation, how to better use these funds rather than it being piecemealed out here and there with not really any kind of coordination of services. So I'm here to ask council to consider appointing a committee, especially maybe a representative of each of those programs that is already working on this. Somebody from, the tour project manager, I think should be part of that. I think I've given a list before of different people that I would like to, that I think would be logical to be on here. Somebody from tribal behavioral health, I think a council representative. I would like a representative from the Elmo community as well. I just am not sure who that person is. If it's a community member at large or somebody else who's already working like in tribal health in that area. Joanna Hazen, who is our youth substance abuse prevention specialist. I really think it's important for her to be on there. Anyway, those were just some of my ideas that I said we have these funds sitting there that could be utilized right now that are not being used, and I'm not sure why that's happening. And I don't know if it's a matter of, I know most of it has been set in an endowment and that there is money that was set aside that could be used now. I believe I was told it was 110,000. That was off the first settlement. I know we're getting a second one. So I know my other request in there was that we do have, I am asking if these funds could also be possibly used to purchase a building in St. Ignatius that could house the tour grant, as well as would give me the ability to bring other services into that community, onto the south end of the reservation involving harm reduction. I could have space for open aid. I could also have a space for NARS. So that people can have those kinds of walk-in services that they're not getting now. And that we have looked at a building in St. Ignatius. James was part of that walkthrough tour that we did last week. It's in good shape. It's something that could be moved into right away. We wouldn't have to remodel or fixed a lot of things and we do have a plan for it. And I've already talked with Joe about using some of the space in there for other another program in tribal health and community health education. That seems to be a good fit. It would fit with what we're doing as well as harm reduction stuff. So anyway, I'm here to make this request that we establish a mechanism to use these funds.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kathy, thank you for coming in and trying to get us off the dime here. We have budgeted the interest from the endowment to be utilized, and we've talked about the committee, and I am fully in support of getting the committee together and having them identify how to spend the interest off of the endowment every year. And I think that's more critical now than ever because in your write-up, you talk about how funding is being cut for staff. And so we really need to think how we replace that funding with probably even this endowment. Again, but that would be the committee's decision. I would be reluctant right now to buy any more buildings at this point in time with the budgets coming forward with the federal government, but also, trying to figure out how to keep it going. we talked about this the other day with the Logan facility, and that's, as Greg Spar mentioned, it's like, there's day one, there's day two, there's day three, and what are all the plans and how are we gonna sustain it? And then I was questioning whether there was any other vacant buildings around that we might be able to utilize that aren't being used or could be better used to maximize the capacity that they have. So, but those are my feelings with it. But I want the committee, and I want the committee to actually start spending this money. Definitely, because there is an unmet need there. And it might be that it's replacing salaries that you're losing or that the program's losing. I don't know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Carol.
Kathy, I'm kind of reluctant to say anything, but you know, a lot of this money came in because of the effects of opioid from a settlement that affected people. And this is where I'm a little bit questionable if I should even say anything, like my son who is incarcerated and others that are incarcerated with him. And I don't know if those individuals seek any kind of assistance. I mean, right now, I see families, I mean, they're now stationed in, where is it, Tallahassee, Tennessee, or wherever. And then, of course, my son's in Arizona. And a lot of those people need to see family once, at least once in a while, once a year, children. And I don't even know if that's a possibility that these funds could ever be used in that fashion to help families go see family members. And I just think there should be some way we could at least take that into consideration. Because that's why we got these funds. I don't know if we're getting future funds for future opioid use, but you know, definitely he had a real serious problem. And so if you could consider that, that would be great. I'm kind of like Tom. I don't like the idea of buying another building because we've got, it seems like we're just building after building. But maybe I need to take a moment and see what it looks like. And then go from there rather than make just a automatic decision. I don't know how much it'd cost, but certainly $100,000 doesn't go very far when you're buying property and stuff, but certainly willing to keep an open mind on that part. At first, I was totally and absolutely against it just because kind of watching some things go on around us, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a need. And is Mission the place? I don't know. I always think Jennifer's place in Polson always could use some additional, because, you know, a lot of things go on up there too. So, and it's close to the Kootenai community and other places. So anyway, but I'm willing to take a look at it. So thank you.
Well, one of the things that I had been wanting to do and hadn't been able to do was expand services out to the Elmo community. I just don't have, I'm only half time. And I'm a program of one person. So I have to network and coordinate and contract with other people to kind of to provide that. So and I hear what you're saying about keeping families and people connected when they're incarcerated off reservation. I understand that. Another option too is that we could lease this facility, and that would be something that we could use the funds for, is to lease it until maybe such time it became available when the tribe felt like it was the right time to step in and buy it. The owners are very open to that. They just want it to be used for something worthwhile. The only thing they asked me is that it not be another cannabis dispensary. I said, well, I think we're pretty well saturated with that. But so they're very agreeable. They want to support what we're doing. They see the need for, you know, a base where people on the north end or the south end of the reservation could have access to some more support and services. And my program just is not big enough to do that. I'm very small and I'm trying to retire.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate being able to visit with them two ladies. What are their names? I can't even remember.
Amber Clark and her sister, I think, is Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had tried to carry on a dental practice there and they had plenty of clients. They just didn't have any staff to help them. So this goes to our prior discussion with Gary Pitts in the dental realm, is that they had taken over the facility right just before or during COVID, and and their whole desire is to see basically the tribe use it. Is from the discussion. They want to see us have a good program in there. So, I hear it. I know what everyone's feeling about buying other buildings and this and that and the other, but Head Start's using their building. They've got stuff in there and the other one's being used for storage. And in my opinion, we've got a real vulnerable population here, and they're always the one that gets the short end of the stick. Nobody wants to deal with drug addicts. Nobody wants to deal with mental health issues. And when you look at where they're housed at Tribal Health, they're kind of back in a corner. And, sharing offices at times, 2 or 3 staff people trading off. And, but I think there's room to work with these folks on the use of the building, whether it's a lease or rent to own or something. That I think they're pretty willing to work with us. But I definitely make a motion to appoint this committee. And I think Kathy had a list of names that we had before, and allow them to develop those policies and procedures for what we should be considering in spending these funds. But I'll make the motion to establish that committee.
Tom?
Yeah, thank you. I would definitely second that, but I want to make sure that we're inclusive. And I know Francis Auld came in and he was the first one that was advocating for a committee and use for like hosting an annual or a periodic workshop on new prevention and contemporary things. So there may be some other than what Kathy suggested. There might be a few other folks that put in that committee, and I would rely on that committee to make recommendations on, do we need this or we need that, to really, I don't want to get the cart before the horse, and not saying that. I think what you're saying, Kathy, is well warranted. We have an unmet need of dramatic proportions all over for almost everything. But I just want to make sure that this money lasts forever, because this problem is going to last forever. And is what's indicated right now with the federal funding, I don't know what the future is. And if we have to generate our own revenue to provide services, then this would be one way to do it through this opioid settlement if it's an endowment. So I'm really hesitant not to use any of it as the endowment part of it. But the interest, that's an annual budget. It's open. It's an open market for me. And I would again, I applaud you for coming forward, and let's get this committee up and running. Let's stand up a committee. And so I would certainly second the motion that James has.
I guess the question I have is, in establishing the committee, should we do it via targeting positions rather than certain people, and then put those certain people in that are in those positions? You mentioned which the TOR project manager should be on this committee. And somebody from Elmo, you said, and if we could identify positions rather than necessarily specific people, it might be a committee that continues. And I would say we should probably do this at least with a resolution.
So motion to have a resolution provided to establish this committee. Later on, formalize the resolution. So I'll change my motion to direct Kathy, I guess, and legal to help us draft a resolution to establish this committee.
Motion by James, and second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous. Let's get this committee together.
Thank you.
James.
On the next one, I just think, I did ask council, and we approved at least to show interest in this property. I think allow us to at least visit with the owners to see if we could even lease it or lease to own or some of those kind of options. I think they might be willing to work with us on some of that. And Joe Dirklu did go with us on that tour, and he had some ideas for M&I money that could be used and some other options that could be brought to bear. Just needs to be a little more fleshed out. So thank you.
And something I didn't share with you is, I'm in my 5th office space in 2 years. So when I was looking at this building, thinking to myself, because tribal health is just running out of room. We don't have space for people that they hire. And it made sense to me, not just to find a dedicated space for this program, because I think this is a critical program that needs to be here, but how I could use that to expand what we're doing and even take some of the overflow off of tribal health. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm in my 5th space in 2 years.
Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks for coming in, Kathy. How long is your grant for?
It is a 5-year grant and we're halfway through the first year of that. So we have a little over 4 years left in the grant.
And you're part-time?
It's part-time because we got cut in funding and I put myself at part-time. Before that, it was full-time.
Are there other positions that are
No.
unfilled yet right now? I mean,
There's no one else.
there's funding for it?
The funding,
There's not funding for any other FTEs?
no, there's not enough in the budget. If I cut services to people, I'd have to cut services to people to do that. And I opted to cut my salary instead.
Well, let's get this committee together and move forward. And James was asking to do a little footwork on finding out more about what possibilities there are with the building, and I don't think there's any objection to that.
Okay, thank you.
So was Joe coming in or?
No, Joe needs to be rescheduled for next week.
Oh, okay.
And then we have,
Mark Baker here.
yeah, he's on his way, he's coming in right now. And then Shane Morja will be doing that because Jordan is not, he's at another meeting.
Good. And did I hear you talking with Jordan about it being an executive?
Yeah.
Okay. We can go out of regular into executive then.
So with that last
We are adjourned.